Although Constructor is a recent release on the Switch, those with long enough gaming memories may well recall it from years gone by. In its original form, Constructor first released for MS-DOS computers way back in 1997 and later got a console port to the Sony PlayStation. This Nintendo Switch version is a remaster of that original game with a whole host of new features, including new buildings, new undesirables and new game modes. This game was actually due to come out around the launch of the Switch, but has had numerous delays in that time. Well, planning permission was finally granted in February of this year, but is this a national treasure or a complete and utter cowboy job?
Right, enough of all this poncing about. Time to do some building.
Bloody hell, alright mate, I'm getting there. I'm Glenn for Switch Up, let's find out. On the face of it, I would like to think it's fair to say that most people looking at this game with no prior knowledge of the series would expect a SimCity type experience. Whilst there are similarities between the two series, Constructor is also something very different in some respects as well. Yes, you are theoretically building up a town and it is a simulation game too, but it also has elements of real-time strategy as you attempt to grow your construction business and stay ahead of the competition by any means necessary. The game starts with a pretty extensive tutorial. It's completely optional, but unless you have played this game before, you'd be wise to start here, as it's pretty difficult working out the intricacies of the game for yourself, and there is a lot to learn. The basic premise is that you must build your construction empire up from humble beginnings with just a decrepit headquarters to show for your efforts to an all-conquering corporation that covers the whole map. To do this, you have a few staff members on hand to assist you. First up is the foreman. In order to build any new properties, you must have a foreman in charge, and each foreman can have a team of up to 5 workers with them to ensure that construction goes smoothly. You will also have repairmen at your disposal to ensure that once the buildings are up, they stay up. In order to build anything, you must enter the estate agent's screen. From here, you can choose the sort of property you would like to build. Initially, only a lumberyard will be available to you, and once you have built this, residential properties will become available too. After you have built a residential property, you can then choose the type of tenant that you wish to move in. Level 1 tenants are the slobbiest of the slobby, whereas your level 5 tenants will be a bit more prim and proper. Each type of tenant serves a purpose though. For example, of the 2 level 1 tenants you can choose from at the beginning, one family are willing to pay more rent and cause less property damage, whereas the second family cause more damage but are more willing to breed. What on earth does breeding have to do with a construction game? I'm glad you asked. Having families that breed quickly is how you increase your population of workers, enabling you to build more property and potentially become a major force in the construction business. For each house you build, you can set whether that tenant will focus on paying rent, providing you with more tenants and therefore an increase in your population, or join your workforce as already mentioned. As you progress, you will be able to build residential properties of a higher level, and keeping a balance of these 3 areas is key. Of course, if you had the whole town to yourself, there would be no real need to compete, and there are rival construction businesses sharing the turf with you. In order to come out on top, you have a few underhand tricks up your sleeve, starting with the undesirables. The first of these that you will encounter is the hippie. Once you have unlocked the commune building type, you will have access to the hippie undesirable. These can be used to cause havoc on your competitor's turf. For example, sending the hippie to have a street party outside one of your rival's buildings will cause a commotion that can give you a chance to take that building while it's unguarded. It is here where the game has that real-time strategy feel to it, and you will find your buildings under attack regularly. If the perimeter fence is taken down by a team of the opposition's workers, they will gain control of that property, and vice versa. This is just the absolute tip of the iceberg in terms of Constructor's gameplay features, and some of the others include, but are not exclusive to, thieves who can steal resources from your rivals, gadgets that can be built and placed in residents' homes, and gangsters that can be recruited to deal with any problems. Some of these mechanics do feel a little dated these days, like constantly having to send a team of workers back to your lumber or your cement yards to create new resources, rather than having this happen automatically, or finding a specific point or character that the game has asked you to find, and at times like these, the game does become a little laborious. The biggest stumbling block with Constructor Plus is just how steep the difficulty curve is. I mean, it's a Mount Everest of difficulty curves. Playing on easy mode and having played the very extensive hour-long tutorial mode twice, I began my steps into the game with mission mode. The first, basic mission, is split into 7 stages, and after completing stage 1 with relative ease, stage 2, which introduces the rival companies, is such an increase in difficulty with you constantly under attack that it quickly becomes overwhelming. Remember, this was stage 2 of 7 in the very first mission. Feeling my nose put a little out of joint, but determined to succeed, I tried another game mode, the classic mode, but again found I was no match for the AI, who pummeled me into submission. From here, I decided to customise my experience by choosing a smaller map and removing all rival teams. At this point, I started to put what the tutorial had shown me into practice without the extra pressure that the rivals bring. I found this really works for me as I became used to the button shortcuts and became accustomed to maintaining my own town before I had to worry about attacking another or defending my own. After this, I added one other team when I felt ready. My point is merely that despite the absolutely insane difficulty curve, there is a fun game in here and there are ways of accessing it. It's just you have to do a bit more of the work that perhaps the game should have done for you. In terms of game modes, there are scenarios, missions, quick play modes and customizable maps to choose from. Most of these will have an objective or goal for you to reach, whereas some will be a little more in the free play model. As is the case with any console version of a simulation game, the lack of a mouse is always felt, but credit where it's due, the developers have tried to combat this. First things first, your cursor movement is handled with the left stick, whereas the right stick controls the camera. Camera movement is limited to panning across the game map and zooming in and out, which is accomplished by holding the ZR button and moving the stick up or down. All of the icons for various screens, such as the aforementioned estate agents or the worker screen, are displayed, and most of these have a shortcut attributed to them, which is accessed by holding either the ZL or the ZR button and then pressing the corresponding button shown next to the icon. This works fairly well and is a decent alternative if you find the cursor movement a little too cumbersome due to the lack of a mouse. These shortcuts also allow you to speed up or slow down the game. If playing in handheld mode, touchscreen controls are supported, and although they're not terrible, they aren't as precise as I would have liked either. Any of your characters that are currently idle are displayed at the top of the screen, meaning that you can click on them and send them somewhere else. Even with this, I still found keeping an eye on my workers more difficult than I would have liked. Gameplay is an interesting mix of city building and real-time strategy, which, although can feel rewarding, can also blow up in your face in a moment's notice, and it gets 12 out of 20, whereas Controls receive 13 out of 20. Graphically, the game uses a fixed isometric angle, and it retains a style that is similar of that to the original in some respects. As well as the main isometric view, there are some 3D cutscenes and character models. It's nothing that will blow anyone away today, but it does have enough charm and enough larger than life characters to keep you smiling. Plus there are quite a few environments ranging from the more traditional cities to exotic areas and even outer space. Performance wise, there is some noticeable blur when scrolling the camera in handheld mode, especially on the gravel from the building site, which is unfortunate in a game all about construction. Personally, it made my eyes feel a little funny after a while, but perhaps it won't affect everybody this way. I experienced 2 crashes during my time with the game too, both at the exact same point. During the tutorial, you are visited by a thief. I clicked on him to try and apprehend him, and the game crashed. Annoyingly, I had to restart the whole tutorial again after this, and when I got back up to the part with the thief, I clicked on him and it crashed again. So my advice would be, do not click on the thief during the tutorial. If you ever need further proof that crime is bad, here it is. It makes your bloody game crash. Decent, if not spectacular graphics, along with some minor performance issues, mean that visuals receive 12 out of 20. Audio-wise, the game uses fairly stereotypical accents from various parts of England, such as the repairmen from Liverpool and the Londoner workmen. The voice of the main narration is provided by British legendary actor John Challis, most famous for playing the character of Boycie in classic British sitcom Only Fools and Horses.
There you go. Your bundle of joys on its way. This display shows you how long before your worker will report for duty at your HQ.
If you know anything about that TV show and the character that he plays, his voice is a perfect fit for what this game is trying to achieve, and his delivery, as expected, is absolutely on point. Other than this, the sound bites from the small character sprites are less impressive, and the music does its job without becoming annoying, which is a positive. Audio receives 14 out of 20. Constructor Plus costs £19.99 or $19.99, so again we are faced with another company that haven't quite mastered exchange rates yet. For the price you are paying, you are getting a host of story or mission modes, nearly 50 of the story scenarios and 15 missions, as well as the classic and designer modes for quick play, and a fairly basic achievement system is also thrown in for good measure. Obviously, this is a remaster of an old game, but due to the nature of the genre, the price still feels fair, despite the game essentially being 20 or so years old. What I will say is how much of the content you see will depend on how willing you are to persevere through that steep difficulty curve, but value receives 16 out of 20. To conclude, Constructor Plus is a unique game in that it is not the city builder that those with little knowledge of the series may have expected, but is more of a real-time strategy game with an urban setting. It's feature-rich and clearly self-aware enough to realise how intricately layered its gameplay mechanics are, judging by the wealth of tutorials that are available. What it doesn't do so well is have the accessibility to allow you to tackle some of these intricacies due to a high difficulty level on initial entry. And although, save for those 2 early crashes, I never encountered another one, the potential for performance issues is clearly there too. If you have the patience to learn its ways and the self-esteem to continue to try again after the game has knocked you on your bum, you can have some fun with Constructor. Just go in with eyes wide open as to exactly what the game is. Constructor Plus receives a switch up score of 67%. Many thanks everybody as always for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do remember to leave a like if you did. A quick thank you to our Patreons as always, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos and helping us reach 25,000 subscribers. Take it easy everyone, and until the next one, happy gaming.